Human rights activist Mark Heywood has joined Rise Mzansi's national campaign to help refine the party's policies. Heywood has been announced as a member of Change Starts Now, which was started by businessman Roger Jardine. To discuss his move to Rise Mzansi, Heywood joins me on the line. Mr. Heywood, good afternoon. Thanks very much for your time. I would imagine the spectacular collapse of Change Starts Now must have disorganized you quite badly.
Good afternoon, Vuyo. Yes, it was very disappointing. I joined Change Starts Now because I think we all agree this is a critical election. People are looking for new leaders, they're looking for new ideas, and unfortunately the Change Starts Now political project didn't work out. So it was very disappointing, but I'm equally privileged now to be with another political party, Rise Mzansi, which I think stands for the same ethics and values and vision that we were trying to create through Change Starts Now, which is for new leaders and bold ideas and efforts and policy that will pull South Africa out of the crisis that faces so many people in this country.
And I want to get into those in a second, but some of us struggled to believe the reasons that were given for Change Starts Now's collapse. And as someone who gave the project his all and was probably in a better position to understand the dynamics of what actually happened, and would be wiser than the rest of us as to what actually happened. What actually happened? Or was the whole court case thing really the only reason why that project collapsed?
Well, I don't think anything has been hidden. Personally, I think that Change Starts Now, which was launched on the 10th of December of last year, almost had a certain naivety about what's involved in putting together a political party, how complex it is, how challenging it is to build the administration, the machine of a political party, and at the same time to canvass for support on a mass basis. One thing I'm learning as a person who's been in NGOs and social movements for the last 30 years is that political party building is a very, very complex and demanding process. And very different to what I've experienced before. So there's no conspiracy. There was nothing that was hidden. The idea was important and it was genuine, but at the end of the day, we have to say that it failed.
Now, did you reach out to Rise Mzansi or did they court you?
I have been working with the leadership of Rise Mzansi for more than a year. I've been watching the process of the growth and development and visioning of Rise Mzansi. So I think it was both things happening at the same time. I was looking for a way to continue to serve a political party that fits with my vision, and I think Rise Mzansi has seen in me and several other people who've come with me from Change Starts Now somebody who stands for social justice, for democracy, for accountability, and for patriotically building this country according to the Constitution's vision of social justice and human rights.
Now, from what the Rise Mzansi has told us, you're bringing with you, which you touched on just now, 6 highly skilled individuals who will assist in the areas of marketing, communication, organizing, mobilizing political programs, as well as research. But what specifically will you be doing?
Well, Vuyo, I, as I've mentioned, have been a campaigner for human rights literally since 1994 and even before that. I've amassed, I think, very significant experience on issues such as access to healthcare services, rights to basic education. I've been in the front line of the fight against corruption and against state capture. I've worked on rights to hunger, rights to food. I've really been in the trenches for a very, very long time. I've built up networks with activists, networks with academics, networks with civil society, and I want to try to use all of that experience to advance what I think is the most important new political party and political project that this country has seen in the democratic period.
Now, I mean, you mentioned earlier that you share, I mean, with the people you are now going to be working with. I mean, you have a lot in common around ethics, values, and of course the vision that they have for our country. But what do you think Rise Mzansi as a project has going for itself that presumably others don't have?
Well, I think Rise Mzansi will reshape this country. I genuinely believe that. I've only been working with them physically in the office for a few days, but what I've seen since I've gone into the office is slick organization with young people, young men and women who are idealistic, who are dedicated, who are very committed to the work that they're doing. And I've actually been very surprised because remember, Rise Mzansi is only just coming up to 1 year since it was launched. I've actually been surprised at just how much has been accomplished in such a short time. For me, I feel as if it's coming home to be with a group of activists who want to put this country on a path that brings dignity and equality and opportunity and good governance to all of the people of this country. It's early days, but I feel as if there's a commonality of values and commitment.
Now, notwithstanding the opposition's own weaknesses, but what we've seen over the past 30 years has been that the winner-takes-all situation of the ANC has seriously reduced the impact of other political parties. And given the fact that not many people really give the likes of Rise Mzansi and your bosses a great deal of chance, how do you think in a situation where a Rise Mzansi occupies a tiny minority of seats, if at all, what do you think that's going to do? I mean, to whatever vision Rise Mzansi may have for the country?
Well, the first thing I would say to you is I have absolutely no doubt that Rise Mzansi is going to be part of the next parliament, and how big a part depends upon how hard we work over the next 2 months in persuading millions of people who are still undecided voters and millions of people who are totally disaffected with what is on offer with the older political parties. So the size of Rise Mzansi in the next parliament is something that is in the hands of the activists of Rise Mzansi. My personal belief is that even with a small number of people in Parliament, Parliament is an institution that is given very important powers and responsibilities. And with a small number of people, you can play a critical role in ensuring accountability. You can play a critical role in bringing the voices of communities into that place. You can play a critical role in being a conveyor belt for ideas of civil society, issues that civil society raises. That should be the nature of democracy. Ours is what we call a participatory democracy, where every party, large or small, the majority party or minority parties, has a role to play, and that role will have to be played. So my answer, it's a long answer, is that there is much that can be done and much that can be influenced.
Well, assuming that, you did a bit of soul searching after the collapse of Change Starts Now, and looked at whatever else may be out there, did you at any moment reflect on the work that you've done with your TACs and said, perhaps I should go back to, the human rights and social justice activism space? Was that a consideration at all, or was that out of bounds?
No, it's not out of bounds at all. I'm always doing soul searching and introspection, and I'm still a social justice and human rights activist, and I always will be. I sit on the board of the Treatment Action Campaign. I sit on boards of a number of other NGOs. I am deeply immersed in civil society and in social justice struggles, and I always will be. But what I have understood through 30 years of activism is that civil society plays a really critical role in struggles that are defensive, in raising ideas, such as we did with the Treatment Action Campaign, where eventually we got 5 million people with access to antiretroviral treatment. But we have to take these ideas of social justice and human rights into the heart of government. You can't just be in a democracy like ours. You can't be satisfied with always being on the edges, shouting in, hoping that sometimes the government will listen to you, other times the government won't listen to you. I think that political parties are absolutely critical, and we're in such a crisis now in South Africa that political parties are where power lies. Political parties are who the ordinary voter in this country entrusts to change our country, to better their lives through the national and provincial parliament. So what I'm doing doesn't represent a rupture. It represents a continuity, and I will continue my relationships with all of those movements.
And that's precisely the reason I was asking the question, because some people would argue that your TACs have done a great job compared to many, if not most, of the political parties that we've seen, that have been part of us over the past 30 years.
Undoubtedly we have, but let's take the example of the TAC. The TAC has done fantastic, groundbreaking, life-saving work on HIV and has saved prevented 6 million deaths in this country. But the health system as a whole has continued to crumble, to become more unequal, even whilst we in the TAC have created equality in relation to HIV. If you live with cancer today and you are poor, the probability is that you are not going to get the medicines that you need and you're going to die of cancer. There are still tens of thousands of people who die of tuberculosis, preventable, treatable tuberculosis every year. The TAC, I was looking the other day, in the TAC, we first called for TB to be declared an emergency, I think, 10 years ago, and the government hasn't listened. So there are some issues on which civil society can make enormous inroads, but there are also issues where you're banging your head against the wall a lot of the time. So it's not a question of being inside government or outside government. It's a question of being outside government in civil society with allies inside government in political parties that are able to advance that constitutional vision. That's how I rationalize it, Vuyo.
Mark Heywood, best of luck to you, and may the best people win.